Ohio held a town hall. Residents had many questions for authorities there. In particular, is it safe to go home? Can they continue to live their lives without fear of chemical reprisal? There was an event that took place in a town hall setting. I believe it was a high school. You can see the crowd was very, very big. A lot of residents wanting to know more. This is the scene. A lot of people there. Now, all these are citizens who've got questions for the authorities. And they've also got questions for the railroad company, the company that was responsible for transporting all of these materials. But my understanding, and we're going to hear from some others who explain this for us, is that the railroad company didn't send any representatives. CEO wasn't there. No liaison was there. No lawyer was there. There's a live thread that we'll read through that explains all of this, and we'll hear from some residents as well as a representative from Ohio in a minute. But first, here is a quick scene from inside the building, and the audio is a little difficult to listen to. It's a giant hall, and this is from our friends over at Rebel News, and they have done a lot of great work. They've got people who show up on scene all over the place and dig into these stories. But here was the scene inside. Again, the audio is bad. We're not going to be able to hear much, but we're going to go read the live thread right after this is done so we can sort of read what happened at this town hall. The young man, you saw him here, he asked a question about how is it that we're going to feel safe here in Ohio?
How should us kids feel safe with the snow launching?
All right, you must know how we should feel.
Let's get somebody from the EPA. Tell these kids what they're smelling and why they either should or should not be worried about that. Mr. Brunkow.
Hello, James Justice from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So as Kurt Muller from the Ohio EPA indicated, we believe the smell and the biggest chemical from butyl acrylate. What we do know about that chemical is one is it's toxic to fish, but it also has what's called a real low odor pressure, which means you'll smell it for a long time before it will cause a health effect. We have been monitoring continuously along the creek. We're smelling it too, but we're not getting any detections of that on monitoring equipment. So you're probably smelling it, but just because you smell it doesn't mean it's at a level to cause a health effect, because that odor threshold is so low. I invite my partners from all parts.
All right, so it sounds like a very scientific answer. They're saying, what is this smell in the air? And he explains it, well, it's the butyl, it's the burning of this and the chemicals going on with the air, and you're smelling that, right? And so they're trying to explain to everybody sort of what's going on and keep everybody calm, but simultaneously be, honest and truthful. And of course, a lot of people have doubts about what the government tells us. I mean, we had several years of the government telling us, do things this way and do things that way, and everything's just going to resolve itself. And we wake up, we fast forward 3 years, and we don't recognize the country that we're living in, and it feels like things have all gotten worse pretty dramatically. So people are skeptical. They're asking, should we believe this? Should we not believe this? They have doubts. And so the scene inside, you can see a lot of people are concerned. Hard to hear exactly what was going on, but we have a great thread from somebody over on Twitter. His name is Nick Sorter, and you can follow him. I'd recommend you do that over at nicksorter.com. He says the people of East Palestine are pissed off. The mayor is holding a town hall at East Palestine High School, and the people are determined to hold the government accountable. I'll be live tweeting the town hall, so stay tuned. You see a lot of people there. Giant crowd. Now, as this thread goes on, he tells us, the first question that goes out to the mayor is, why are the people outside of a 1 mile radius from East Palestine getting no support? First question. 1 mile, you're good. 1.1 miles, you're on your own. Mayor of this town says, answer, because that's what the Department of Transportation told us to do. Who's in charge of that? Oh yeah, Pete Buttigieg. They decided to do a 1 mile radius? Well, that's interesting. He says, there are thousands of people from East Palestine at this town hall. They're demanding answers. They don't believe anything the government has told them thus far. U.S. Congressman Bill Johnson chimed in, said, hey, everybody, we have found nothing in the air or water that will be harmful. A resident said, well, you said the same thing about 9/11 too at Ground Zero. And that was a lie. Nick says that resident was correct. A little boy from East Palestine asks, why can't I play in the creeks and outside because of that smell? Good question, young man. Ohio EPA says, well, it's just a mixture of dead fish and chemicals. That's why it's a smelly pond. That's why you can't play. The boy responds, well, that's not fair. He says the government is robbing these kids of their childhoods. Now, this is what's interesting about this. Norfolk Southern, who actually caused the disaster, they decided not to send a single representative, not anybody, to talk to the people who were there. People are livid, and they're not going to be accepting the company's $1,000 hold harmless bribes. So this is another theory that there's a conversation taking place that Norfolk Southern is sending people to residents and saying, hey, we'll give you $1,000. Just sign this document. We'll test everything. We'll take care of everything. We're going to vacuum for you. We're going to make sure that everything is nice and dusted. You're going to have no chemicals in here. It's going to be beautiful. Plus, we'll give you $1,000 and just sign right here. It says, you're not going to sue us, but you're not going to need to. Everything's going to be fine and everything. And you have $1,000. And they're saying, no thanks. We don't want that. Goodbye. So that is what was taking place inside the town hall. And other people are showing up in other places on the media, including this couple who was on with Tucker Carlson explaining one of those so-called bribes. He was on here talking to Tucker. This is what it sounded like.
Sign a waiver?
Sure. So what I can tell you is that we would like to have independent testing done. And the people at Norfolk had suggested that they were going to offer services by an independent testing company to do air and water testing for us. When these people came to our property, the company was called CTEH. I call it CTech. And they had approached our property, came to our driveway and said, we're here to test the water and soil. And I said, okay, so you guys are independent from Norfolk. And they said, well, not exactly. So then they handed us a contract. The contract stated that essentially Norfolk or any of its affiliates, were going to be, encroaching on the property. They were going to be doing the testing, and that it was essentially a hold harmless agreement. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but what I can tell you is that I did not want to risk anything for my future, the future of the business, by signing this contract. EPA was also there, and we had asked, Chris specifically had asked EPA if they could come in by themselves or without signing of any agreements, and they denied that.
Interesting. So she said the company is called CTEH, and I just grabbed it right here. You can see this is their website. They tell us that they are a readiness preparation firm, a lot of different services, disaster recovery, emergency response, environmental response, all sorts of emergency responses, right? Toxicology, all sorts of stuff. So it is likely, I would guess, right, speculating here, that this is just an outsourced company that was hired by Norfolk, right, to come in here and clean this thing up. So they probably have their own paperwork. Now, what's in that paperwork, we don't know. And she says, I don't know what it is, right? Is it a hold harmless? Is it a waiver? I'm not a lawyer. I don't really know what it is. But it sounds like it is, it could be paperwork. It could be just permission to enter your property and test for something, right? We don't know. But she says she's not willing to risk it. A lot of people are skeptical, and I think rightfully so. Representative Bill Johnson is responding, and he says, I actually haven't heard of that, right? He says, I haven't heard of this hold harmless agreement, but he's going to look into it. And he's also commenting on Fox that there was no CEO there of the railroad company. There was no representative there, and he's a little bit surprised.
You're there at the town hall situation. What is the mood like after the CEO didn't show up?
People are very frustrated. People are angry, Jesse. They came here for answers, and they're legitimately frustrated that the company that caused this accident is not here to be accountable. But I can tell you what, I am here, and I'm going to stay here. I was here on Monday. I walked around with the mayor, the fire chief, some of the emergency crews, the EPA, representatives of Norfolk Southern. I'm going to stay here, and if the railroad's not here tonight, but I'm taking their questions, and anybody that's got a question for Norfolk Southern that they can't get to them tonight, I will take their question and make sure that they get an answer.
Well, I have a question, if you could ask Norfolk Southern. Are they going into people's homes and making them sign liability waivers in order to test the water?
You know, I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that. I'm going to ask about that when I talk to, when I get out of here tonight. Tonight's the first time that I've heard that, but I have not heard that from any of the residences here.
Can I give you testing? And you know what it means with a tractor and they get the results.
It's my understanding that the EPA has overseen all of the testing. I mean, they're the ones responsible for enforcement of the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. So legitimately, they should be the ones that's pulling the trigger on the testing and validating that the testing is being done properly. But the regional director is here. I understand the EPA administrator is going to be here tomorrow. So yes, I will find out about that. But it's the first time tonight that I've heard anything about waivers of liability.
Okay.
So a lot of interesting questions popping up, and we do have questions about liability. We're going to get there next. We have Regan, who is the person representing the Biden administration. But interesting questions. It sort of feels like it's an informational gray zone. It makes sense to me that you'd have the main company outsource a lot of the cleanup, right? The train company is not really capable, I would imagine, doesn't have the structure, the infrastructure to clean everything up, but there are companies that do that all the time, right? And so they would outsource that stuff. Now, the big problem is we have a situation where the people who are needing to be investigated are investigating themselves, right? And we know what a problem that is. We've seen it many times. The FBI investigates themselves. Guess what? They did nothing wrong. Oh, shocking. Congress does it too. Your local police department does it too. They all do it. So it's the same situation here. If Norfolk is responsible for the accident and Norfolk has to report to the EPA and the EPA says, okay, you can outsource your testing to another outsourced company. Who is keeping tabs on the ultimate testing? Does it go up the chain from the company to Norfolk to EPA? Is the EPA, doing their own independent testing? Who knows? Of course, people are going to be demanding answers. We'll see if they get any in due course.